Hi, everyone. So, my sorority sister, my sister wanted me to talk about Nope because she's not interested in watching it. I'm going to say that a few things. Number one, Jordan Peele kind of made a huge smash on the scene when it comes to directing. He has been in a, a ton of different things before. And I actually liked him in this one little show about a dog losing his dog and stuff. I thought it was funny. It wasn't critically acclaimed by far, and it's not even a cult classic, but um but his breakout directorial role was Get Out. And I think and somebody made a comment about because I do another podcast, Nerdorama, and I was explaining how uh it was such a smash because it dealt with a lot of the things that we currently deal with, um, and how and dealing with this kind of interaction between blacks and white interaction and how we feel about being and how that kind of interplay works. And someone made a comment about it being a very simplistic that you can even pick up on it. Now, I don't find that I didn't find it to be simplistic to categorize black daily life being poor. And there are some things that I absolutely do, and I think of me being as a woman. Like there are some things as a woman I absolutely consider. I don't go, if there's certain spaces that I know there's going to be quite a lot of men, I have a higher consciousness and aware of being a woman in these spaces and what I need to do in order to make sure that I'm well protected. So when people, or I may go to my husband really likes to go to this fish place. The fish is good. I hate the location and uh it's not very it's not a very good place for me to actually be. I feel highly uncomfortable being there. And a lot of that level of discomfort comes from the fact that it is a lot of men that kind of hang out. It's next to a liquor store in certain neighborhoods. So all of that, I can identify as a woman, but then also there are spaces where for being black, it's I'm very sometimes aware that this may not be the safest space. And so I don't think that a lot of people realize how we self-police ourselves of where we exist and how we exist in our daily lives because of our race and gender. So I thought that the movie was much more, you know, black folks got it, white folks are like, oh, I didn't realize. What's so fascinating about that is when I did see the show, I was actually coming back from a conference in Santa Barbara and I pulled over, decided to go see the movie. And before the movie started, like not even the previews. I wasn't even in the previews. I was just sitting down, the lights haven't gotten dimmed, and I was on my phone doing texting or something. And this white woman made a decision to come over. She was a more mature white woman, came over and decided to peer over me and told me that I need to get off my phone. And I was like, I will get off my phone when the movie starts. And she's going, well, I'm going to tell such and such. And I was like, and you go tell. Like, I'm going to get off my phone when the movie starts. And if you feel the need to go tell somebody about me, then you do what you feel you need to do. She huffed and puffed and sat next to her and went back and sat next to her husband. And I found the irony of this, and I'm sure the people who were watching it, this interaction, probably even felt more of the irony because the movie is exactly what she was trying to do to me. And it's so fascinating because I was like, did you know that this movie was about this? I say that to say he had such a smash hit. Horror is extremely cheap to make in regards to action movies, etc., right? Okay, so that's number one. And so Get Out was a pretty cheaply made film. It was a lot of profit sharing in the movie, and so a lot of people received a huge back end um, that gave them mobility to be able to do other things. The second movie he came out with, Us, dealt with classism and race, and I thought that I had to watch it more than once. There was a lot of pushback because there was a number of pushback because of the voice and all of these other things, right? So it's been a lot. Now this third movie, so he was out, and when he talked about the second movie, a lot of people were like, huh? And then he walked out the door and people and there were a lot of think pieces. I think I wrote a think piece. I think I did a video on it, and it didn't capture people as much. This movie, the third one, um, there's so many ends to this that I need also more help to understand even more because it is not a expensively made, clearly people were like, well, we need to flesh this out with a better budget. And I'm going to push back on the fact that it needs a better budget. I'm going to push back because um it doesn't need a better budget because the whole point of this is how how when people capture UFOs and try to show evidence of UFOs, it's always, low budget looking. It's a low budget problem. And so to have this film like highly polished would be really bizarre to have a highly polished film that's talking about kind of like a at home capturing of what we're looking at of like these UFOs. That doesn't quite gel. So that's my pushback on that. My second pushback is my second issue with all of this is that Black folks in the center of this kind of story is kind of a bizarre space because even though Black folks do believe, there's a lot of Black folks, my mom, my family being one of them, that believes in UFOs, but we aren't and they're Independence Day, right? But Independence Day, Will Smith was not centered, his blackness didn't matter per se. It wasn't, he could have been any Joe Blow, right? But this one, clearly it was important that they were Black because they gave a nice little history of Black folks in film. Um, they proceed to explain um, the struggles of being Black in film because there's no grace to make mistakes. They're easily replaceable, that kind of a thing. So I think that that touches upon that, the struggles of Blacks to maintain their businesses, even if it's Hollywood adjacent, that kind of a thing. So I think that that's important aspect, and he wants to highlight how a lot of film adjacent, not movie stars, but like the things that also go in, a lot of the vendors, etc. All of those spaces could be more utilized of Black people in those spaces. And how the film industry needs to do a better job in that, and I think that that is a nice addition to story backdrop story of everything, and I appreciate that, so that's an important component. uh I do think that there's some level of comedy here, and and there is a certain level of candor of how Black folks kind of deal with horror and deal with um, anomalies. It is there's a level of fun, and there's a level of humor and jokes. I do think that what makes this really kind of a bit difficult, a bit different. It's different in the space that even though Blackness is centered, it's not centered in the same way as those other films have been, to being that Black life is horror. It is just kind of Black life exists, and we sometimes exist on the margins. And I do think it's kind of cool, you know, all the Black people live still. So that's a spoiler, but I do think that that's kind of a thing. Someone made a comment that I did not even think about, how even when you get near the end of Nope, th- all of this is about trying to get evidence and trying to get the shot. And so you're literally dying for the shot. I didn't think of that perspective of dying to get the shot to prove that aliens in order to save your, in order to make a buck. That is a fascinating capture. I looked at it, I just thought it was, I mean, that would make sense because at the end they are she is taking, Kiki Palmer is taking a picture of what's actually happening. So that is a good point, and I think that is a necessary point. But I also felt that part of this was that you did need to see um a way to kill it, which the killing of this animal that's like UFO animal kind of a thing was um to get it clogged up, and it can't digest um rubber rubber stuff like from a balloon. And so I think that that's, I mean, it's a very simplistic way to deal with this, but a lot of times horror is the frighteningness of simplicity. So that's a nice nail in the head moment. As of a lot, I do find, I will say that a lot of the movie is kind of like, huh? And there are so many nods. I do think one of the skills that he used is like Jaws, where you can make horror from just the anticipation of something. You don't have to make horror by making something look graphic and gruesome. And I don't understand why this is rated R. I can't figure that component out because I do think the language is not not that far out, and I do think that the images are not too grotesque. However, even though the UFO stuff is the front topic, there's a back topic that's happening, and the back topic is dealing with a child star. And this child star who happened to live through the most grotesque thing ever, which was a chimp going crazy on the set and literally murdering everybody on set, except the only other minority, the only minority on set, which was this Asian boy. So let's unpack this. And I mean, of course, he gets shot. The champ gets shot. Now, this is happening in the 80s, and I will say that I think this could be metaphors, but I also think that there's a component of we spent a lot of time in the 80s with using apes, chimps, these wild animals as props and trying to make them into characters and almost especially humanizing them. Of course, we have the infamous um, buddy of MJ, which I'm sure some of you may put in the comments his name. I forgot his name. I don't know. And he dressed like MJ and all that stuff. It's ridiculous. I never understood the phase. When I was a young person, I still was like in the 80s and early 90s, I was like, but they cute, but what if they snap? Like, and the thing is that there's so many things that can make them snap. You know what can make them snap? A loud noise. Anything can make these things snap. And so, and what, and I know I read a lot. Um, they can literally, like, they're so strong. A man who works out constantly, the strongest man is going to lose to a monk, an ape or a chimp. Like, you need tranquilizers at all given out, and you need, and then once they attack someone, they're going to attack again. So you're going to kill them. So I just can't, I never understood that craze, but so he's kind of playing off of that. And then it's fascinating because you had the hand bump at the end, when him and the Asian little boy were about to do a hand pump, and right before the hand pump, he gets shot in the head. I think that there is another slash of metaphor where there's a history of Black artists on some of these almost all white shows that token one, and they get tired of being a token. And they literally just say and do whatever and go ham. And which is sometimes could possibly lead to the end of their career, which can possibly not lead to the end of their career, depends on how that goes. And, I'm going to pause here and say, I think part of the problem, and it's not a problem, I'll say, let me take that back. I think part of the issue that I have with our, I think it's fascinating with younger people. And I do, one of the beauties that I do like about teaching is that being introduced to all these young people, I'm fascinated with Twitter because I'm introduced to some of these young people. And one of the things that I found really invigorating, and I know for me, it took me a while for me to kind of get to this place to be unapologetic about being a Black woman. I wanted for years to be known as a woman and who happens to be Black. And over time, society almost kind of put me into this box. And it's like, okay, well, you won't let me just be woman. And then when you want me to just be woman or person, then first off, you won't let me be person. You're going to let me be a woman. And so then now that you've put this constraint of being a woman, I do want to nudge that level of constraint to help you understand that woman doesn't mean something that is a disability or something that's an inability, right? But then you force me into this other box of being Black, and it's like, well, I can't exist by saying, and then when you tell me that I shouldn't exist in being Black, it's because it makes you uncomfortable, but you've pushed me to this space. So it takes a lot and to kind of come to that understanding. And then but I'm appreciative of how especially younger scholars have kind of entered into this space where it took me a while to get to where I don't care if you don't like what I write, don't publish it, and I'll find another way to break open the door, which is something that generations older than me didn't necessarily feel that way. Um, oh my gosh. Sorry, I need to call Mason. Get on my nerves, man. Um, anyway, that threw me off. But what's fascinating about all of this is what's even more fascinating about this is uh younger scholars are coming along and want to and is more embracing of being Black and fill in the blank scholarship. And so it there's a level of freeing of being free into that space and they're not being penalized. And so I do pause and think about some of the things but one thing I do think the one thing I don't like is how judgmental people are towards some of the older people who really had to sit and bite the bullet and on some of the things that they had to endure. So the level of racist comments, the level of, all of these setbacks that they had to actually physically deal with, I think that people aren't giving them grace in the same way. And so when I watch this chimpanzee, um, there's a level of he just couldn't take it anymore. It's just a bridge too far now. And then somehow he's the maniac because you know what? He was just doing what he was naturally born to do, which was to be a chimpanzee. He didn't ask to be an actor. Like he didn't ask to put into this level of conformity of something that these people wanted him to be. And then they get mad and then they decide to kill him because he did something wrong. When in fact, he didn't do anything wrong. Yes, killing people is not a good thing, but he didn't do anything wrong because he was doing what his nature has made a decision for. He was doing what he was to do with his life, which was to be a chimp, supposed to be playing in the jungle. He's supposed to be playing with his friends, supposed to be eating, getting into fights with his friends. That's what he's supposed to be doing with his life, being free. Instead, he's wearing a sweater and he's wearing this stupid little, you know, birthday cap on. He's getting a birthday gift. Like this is not what chimps do. They don't have a birthday gift. They don't have birthday parties. And so I think this level of conformity and trying to understand who Black people are this to other people were caricatures, and you want us to fit into this box and then get upset when we come into our space of who we are. I don't dislike the movie. I think this movie is a extreme pause to think about. If you love movies and if you watch a lot of other movies, a lot of older movies, then you're going to like this because you're like, oh, this is a Steven Spielberg moment. Oh, this is what this means. Oh, this ties back to the 80s TV. Oh, this ties back to you're so jammed into kind of that space that you will enjoy it, but then on the other hand, you will also and you'll revere it because you'll understand what it's about. You'll understand conceptually and physically what this is. This is, but on the other hand, it also isn't the most uh it will not make a lot of people, it's not for wide appeal. Let's put it that way. Because the people that I went to see it with were like, I hate this movie. And it's like, okay, I didn't dislike it. It's not something that I'd watch over and over again. Um, it's something that I'd watch once or twice and be like, okay, cool. And it is something that I would teach if I taught film. But I hope that you will absolutely enjoy uh to go see it. Don't have different expectations for it. Realize it that it's not what you assumed it was going to be. It's not this blockbuster typical alien movie by far. The acting, I want to say I think the acting's cool. David, I appreciate David and I appreciate his evolution. I think that David as an actor is just terrific. And what's so funny is that he said that he was going to leave acting, but he got that show, Get Out. He was casted in Get Out, and it was the thing that saved him from leaving the field. And I'm glad that you didn't leave because you have been in some very important films over the years. And I just am excited to see where that goes. People are sad that he's not going to be in Black Panther. I don't understand why they would want him in Black Panther. He's supposed to be in jail. He caused the Civil War. He was contributing to the Civil War. Like, but anyway, have a great rest of your day. And I will see you on the next videos. I'm going to work on my Supreme Court videos so I can post them. Okay? Talk to you soon. Bye.